The digital age has brought about incredible advancements, connecting us in ways we never thought possible. We can access information, entertainment, and connect with others with just a few taps on our smartphones. However, this technological boom has also brought a dark side. Easy access to online gambling, what was once confined to brick-and-mortar casinos, is now readily available to anyone with an internet connection, including young people. The allure of quick riches, flashy advertisements, and the thrill of the game can be particularly enticing to young minds, but beneath the surface lies a dangerous and often hidden epidemic: youth gambling addiction. The internet has become a breeding ground for online casinos and betting platforms, with many specifically targeting a younger demographic. These platforms often use sophisticated marketing techniques, employing bright colors, modern designs, and influencers to make gambling seem cool and harmless. The promise of easy money, coupled with the anonymity and accessibility of online platforms, creates a perfect storm for addiction, particularly among teenagers and young adults who may be more susceptible to risk-taking and impulsive behavior. This issue is compounded by the fact that gambling is often seen as a socially acceptable form of entertainment. We are bombarded with advertisements for sports betting, lottery tickets, and online casinos, normalizing this behavior and making it seem like a harmless pastime. This normalization makes it even harder for young people to recognize the dangers of gambling and can lead to a sense of shame and secrecy surrounding addiction. What starts as a seemingly harmless bet can quickly spiral out of control, leading to devastating consequences for individuals, families, and communities. The true extent of youth gambling addiction is often hidden, masked by shame, denial, and a lack of awareness. Unlike other forms of addiction, gambling addiction often manifests in behavioral patterns rather than physical symptoms, making it harder to detect. Young people struggling with gambling addiction may become withdrawn, experience mood swings, neglect their studies or work, and resort to lying or stealing to fuel their addiction. The devastating consequences of this hidden epidemic are far-reaching, impacting not only the individual's financial well-being, but also their mental health, relationships, and future prospects. While adults are also susceptible to gambling addiction, young people are particularly vulnerable due to their developing brains. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making, impulse control, and evaluating risk and reward, is not fully developed until the mid-20s. This makes teenagers and young adults more prone to risky behavior and less equipped to resist the allure of gambling. The constant stimulation and dopamine rush associated with gambling can have a profound impact on the developing brain, potentially leading to addiction and other mental health issues. The rise of youth gambling addiction is a serious public health concern that demands attention. We need to raise awareness about the risks associated with gambling, particularly for young people, and challenge the normalization of gambling in our society. Parents, educators, and healthcare professionals need to be equipped with the knowledge and resources to identify the signs of gambling addiction and provide support to those who need it. Breaking down the stigma surrounding addiction is crucial in encouraging young people to seek help. Creating safe spaces for open conversations about gambling and its potential harms can empower individuals to come forward and seek the support they need. Addressing this hidden epidemic requires a multifaceted approach that involves education, prevention, early intervention, and accessible treatment options. The statistics surrounding youth gambling addiction paint a stark and concerning picture. While precise numbers can be difficult to pin down due to the often hidden nature of the problem, research suggests that the issue is far more widespread than many realize. A 2024 study published in the Journal of Adolescent Health found that nearly 1 in 4 young people between the ages of 16 and 24 had gambled online in the past year, and of those, a significant percentage exhibited signs of problematic gambling behavior. These figures are particularly concerning considering the accessibility of online gambling platforms and the aggressive marketing tactics employed by the industry. Further isolation becoming commonplace, young people turn to online platforms for entertainment and social connection, making them more susceptible to the allure of online gambling. The pandemic's impact on mental health coupled with financial stress and uncertainty, created a perfect storm for addiction to thrive, and youth gambling rates saw a significant uptick during this period. The availability of gambling opportunities has also exploded in recent years, with online casinos, sports betting apps, and in-game microtransactions becoming increasingly prevalent. This easy access, combined with the normalization of gambling through advertising and media portrayals, has created an environment where gambling is often seen as a harmless and even desirable activity. This is particularly true for young people who are constantly bombarded with messages that equate gambling with excitement, wealth, and success. The reality, however, is far less glamorous. The rise of youth gambling addiction is not just a problem confined to one country or region, it is a global crisis. From the United States and Canada to the United Kingdom and Australia and across Europe and Asia, young people everywhere are falling prey to the allure of gambling. The internet has made it easier than ever for gambling companies to reach across borders, targeting young people with tailored advertisements and promotions. This has led to calls for greater international cooperation to address the issue and implement stricter regulations to protect vulnerable populations. In the United Kingdom, for instance, the Gambling Commission reported a surge in young people seeking help for gambling-related issues. Similar trends have been observed in Australia, where a 2024 report by the Australian Institute of Family Studies found that adolescents were gambling online at alarming rates. These findings highlight the urgent need for a coordinated global response to address the root causes of youth gambling addiction and mitigate its harmful effects. This includes sharing best practices for prevention, treatment, and education, as well as working together to regulate the online gambling industry and limit the exposure of young people to gambling-related content. One of the major challenges in addressing this issue globally is the lack of consistent data collection and reporting on youth gambling. Many countries do not have adequate systems in place to track the prevalence of gambling addiction among young people, making it difficult to assess the true scale of the problem and develop effective interventions. International organizations such as the World Health Organization, WHO, and the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, have a crucial role to play in advocating for increased research and data collection on youth gambling and providing guidance to governments on developing evidence-based policies and programs. Section 3, the face of youth gambling addiction. Behind the statistics and alarming trends lie real stories of young people whose lives have been turned upside down by gambling addiction. It's important to remember that these are not just numbers on a page. They represent individuals struggling with a serious mental health issue that can have devastating consequences. Take, for example, the story of Liam, a bright and promising 18-year-old from Ireland who became addicted to online sports betting. What started as a casual hobby quickly spiraled out of control, leading to mounting debts, strained relationships, and thoughts of suicide. Liam's story is not unique. Countless young people around the world are facing similar struggles, often suffering in silence due to the stigma associated with addiction. They come from all walks of life with varying socio-economic backgrounds, cultural influences, and personal experiences. Some may be drawn to the excitement and thrill of gambling, seeking an escape from boredom or stress. Others may be motivated by the prospect of easy money, hoping to solve financial problems or achieve a sense of financial independence. Regardless of the initial attraction, the consequences of gambling addiction can be devastating. The stories of these young people are a stark reminder of the human cost of gambling addiction. They highlight the urgent need for greater awareness, prevention efforts, and accessible treatment options. It's crucial to move beyond the statistics and recognize the individual lives impacted by this growing epidemic. By sharing their stories, we can help to break down the stigma surrounding addiction and encourage young people to seek the help they need.
Section 1. Alex's Descent. I, Alex, a bright and ambitious college student, had always been drawn to the world of sports. I loved the thrill of competition, the camaraderie of my teammates, and the feeling of accomplishment after a hard-fought victory. Little did I know that this passion would become entangled with a dangerous vice: online sports betting. It started innocently enough, with a few small bets placed on my favorite teams. I enjoyed the added excitement it brought to the games and the possibility, however remote, of winning some extra cash. As I delved deeper into the world of online betting, I found myself drawn in by the sleek platforms, flashy advertisements, and promises of easy money. The convenience of being able to place bets anytime, anywhere, with just a few taps on my smartphone was alluring. What began as a recreational activity gradually consumed more and more of my time and thoughts. I started spending hours researching odds, analyzing statistics, and chasing losses, neglecting my studies and distancing myself from friends and family. The wins, when they came, were exhilarating, fueling my belief that I had stumbled upon a surefire way to make money. However, the losses, which became more frequent and substantial, were devastating. I found myself trapped in a vicious cycle of betting to recoup my losses, only to dig myself deeper into a financial hole. The shame and guilt I felt were overwhelming, but I was too embarrassed to confide in anyone, withdrawing further into myself and the secrecy of my addiction. Section 2, Lost in the Virtual Casino. Unbeknownst to my family and friends, my life was spiraling out of control. I, the once promising student who had dreamed of a career in sports medicine, was now skipping classes, failing exams, and racking up significant debt. I had become isolated, withdrawn, and consumed by the allure of online gambling. The virtual world of online casinos had become my refuge and my tormentor, offering a seductive escape from reality while simultaneously tightening its grip on my life. The anonymity of the internet allowed me to hide my addiction from those closest to me. I could gamble at any hour without judgment or scrutiny, fueling my compulsion in the shadows. The online platforms I frequented were designed to keep me engaged, offering a constant stream of betting options, bonuses, and incentives. I felt a sense of control and mastery when I was gambling, a stark contrast to the chaos and shame that permeated my life outside the virtual casino. As the lines between reality and the virtual world became increasingly blurred, my perception of money became distorted. I viewed my losses as temporary setbacks, convinced that a big win was just around the corner. The more I lost, the more desperate I became to chase those losses, believing that I could outsmart the system and regain control. I began borrowing money from friends and family, concocting elaborate lies to conceal my addiction and the true extent of my financial troubles. The weight of my lies and deceit became an unbearable burden. I was living a double life, presenting a facade of normalcy to the outside world while battling my addiction in secret. The guilt and shame I carried were compounded by the fear of being discovered and the potential consequences for my relationships and future. I had become a master manipulator, adept at spinning tales to explain away my erratic behavior, my declining grades, and my constant need for money. The stress of maintaining the charade took a toll on my mental and physical health. I was plagued by anxiety, insomnia, and digestive problems. The once athletic young man who had taken pride in his physical fitness now neglected his appearance and hygiene. I was a shadow of my former self, consumed by the overwhelming need to gamble and the fear of being found out. The breaking point came when my parents received a call from my university, informing them that I was at risk of being expelled due to poor academic performance. Faced with my parents' disappointment and concern, I could no longer maintain the facade. The truth spilled out, leaving my family devastated and heartbroken. The realization that I had been struggling with addiction in silence was a crushing blow, but it also marked the beginning of my journey towards recovery.
Maria, a young woman with piercing blue eyes and a warm smile, carried a heavy burden. Her older brother, Daniel, had always been the life of the party, charming, charismatic, and full of life. However, behind his infectious laughter and carefree demeanor, Daniel harbored a secret that would tear their family apart: a crippling addiction to online poker. It began subtly with late nights spent in front of the computer screen, supposedly studying or catching up with friends online. I, engrossed in my own life as a college student, didn't initially notice the subtle changes in Daniel's behavior. As his addiction took hold, he became increasingly withdrawn and secretive. He was easily agitated, prone to mood swings, and distant from family and friends. His once impeccable appearance became disheveled, and he neglected his responsibilities, both at home and at his part-time job. I noticed these changes but attributed them to stress or typical teenage angst. unaware of the dark secret that was consuming Daniel's life. One evening, I stumbled upon a series of alarming text messages on Daniel's phone, revealing the extent of his gambling addiction and the significant financial trouble he had concealed from our family. The discovery sent shockwaves through our household. Our parents, who had always believed their children were their pride and joy, were devastated by the revelation. The sense of betrayal and the realization that their son had been living a lie for months were crushing.
The digital age has ushered in an era of unprecedented accessibility, and the gambling industry has been quick to capitalize on this shift. Online gambling platforms have proliferated, offering a dizzying array of games, betting options, and enticing bonuses, all designed to lure in new users, particularly young people. These platforms are often brightly colored, featuring sleek designs and user-friendly interfaces that make them highly appealing to a younger demographic accustomed to navigating the digital world with ease. Unlike traditional casinos, which are bound by geographical limitations and opening hours, online gambling platforms are accessible 24/7, allowing users to gamble from the comfort of their own homes, dorm rooms, or even on the go using their smartphones. This constant accessibility makes it easier for individuals, especially young people who may be more prone to impulsive behavior, to engage in gambling without the traditional barriers that might have previously served as deterrents. The convenience and anonymity of online gambling create a perfect storm for addiction to thrive, as users can easily lose track of time and money, often without the knowledge or support of family and friends. The marketing strategies employed by online gambling companies are often highly sophisticated, targeting young people with personalized advertisements based on their browsing history, social media activity, and other online behaviors. These targeted ads can be incredibly effective in reaching vulnerable individuals who may be more susceptible to the allure of quick riches, exciting gameplay, and the social status often associated with gambling. The use of algorithms and data analysis allows these companies to tailor their marketing messages with precision, exploiting psychological vulnerabilities and normalizing gambling behavior among young people. Furthermore, many online gambling platforms offer generous bonuses, free bets, and other incentives to entice new users and keep them engaged. While these promotions may seem appealing on the surface, they are often designed with carefully calculated psychological tactics to encourage users to spend more money than they initially intended. These tactics can be particularly effective on young people who may lack the financial literacy and impulse control to resist the allure of these offers. The promise of free money can be a powerful motivator, leading users down a slippery slope of chasing losses and increasing their financial risk.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You'll never have the sacred stone.
In the age of social media, influencer marketing has become a ubiquitous and highly effective strategy for reaching target audiences. And the gambling industry has been quick to recognize its potential. By partnering with popular social media personalities, gamers, and other online influencers, gambling companies can leverage the trust and admiration these individuals have cultivated among their followers, many of whom are young people, to promote their products and services in a way that feels organic and relatable rather than overtly promotional. These influencers often promote gambling in a casual and aspirational manner, showcasing themselves enjoying the thrill of the game, boasting about their winnings, or offering exclusive bonuses and promotions to their followers. The casual endorsement of gambling by individuals they admire and trust can normalize this behavior in the minds of young people, making it seem like a harmless and even desirable pastime. This is particularly concerning given that young people are often highly influenced by the opinions and behaviors of their peers and those they perceive as role models. The use of influencers to promote gambling is particularly insidious because it blurs the lines between entertainment and advertising. Young people may not even realize they are being targeted by marketing messages when they are consuming content from their favorite influencers, making them more susceptible to the persuasive power of these endorsements. Moreover, the algorithms used by social media platforms often prioritize content from accounts that users engage with regularly, creating echo chambers where young people are bombarded with messages that normalize and glamorize gambling, further increasing their risk of developing problematic gambling behaviors. The lack of transparency and regulation surrounding influencer marketing in the gambling industry is a major cause for concern. Many influencers fail to disclose their financial relationships with gambling companies, leading their followers to believe that their endorsements are genuine and unbiased. This lack of transparency makes it difficult for young people to make informed decisions about their gambling behavior and increases the likelihood that they will be influenced by these marketing tactics. One of the most concerning aspects of the rise of youth gambling addiction is the normalization of gambling behavior in society. Gambling is often portrayed in popular culture as a harmless form of entertainment, with movies, television shows, and video games frequently depicting gambling in a glamorous and exciting light, often without any realistic portrayal of the potential consequences. This constant exposure to gambling imagery and narratives can desensitize young people to the risks involved, making it more likely that they will view gambling as an acceptable and even desirable activity. The widespread availability of gambling opportunities, both online and offline, further contributes to the normalization of this behavior. From lottery tickets sold at convenience stores to sports betting advertisements plastered across stadiums and television screens, gambling has become deeply ingrained in many aspects of modern life. This constant exposure can create the impression that gambling is a ubiquitous and socially acceptable activity, making it more challenging for young people to recognize the potential harms and seek help if they're struggling with addiction. The normalization of gambling is further exacerbated by the increasing acceptance of gambling-related sponsorships in sports, esports, and other forms of entertainment popular among young people. Many professional sports teams and leagues now have official betting partners, and gambling advertisements are frequently displayed during sporting events and broadcasts. This close association between gambling and entertainment can create the impression that gambling is a harmless and even integral part of the fan experience, making it more challenging for young people to develop healthy attitudes and behaviors around gambling. The normalization of gambling behavior poses a significant challenge to efforts aimed at preventing and addressing youth gambling addiction. When gambling is seen as a harmless pastime rather than a potentially addictive behavior, it can be difficult to raise awareness about the risks involved and encourage young people to seek help if they are struggling. Online gambling platforms are often designed with sophisticated psychological techniques and features that exploit human vulnerabilities, making them highly addictive, especially for young people whose brains are still developing. These platforms employ a variety of tactics to keep users engaged and spending money, often without them even realizing the extent to which their behavior is being manipulated. These tactics can be incredibly effective in creating a cycle of addiction that can be difficult to break free from. One common tactic is the use of near misses, where the game is designed to simulate a win, even when the player has actually lost. This creates a sense of excitement and anticipation, encouraging the player to keep gambling in the belief that a big win is just around the corner. The constant dopamine rush associated with these near misses can be highly addictive, particularly for young people who are more susceptible to the rewarding effects of this neurochemical. Another tactic is the use of losses disguised as wins, where the player receives a payout that is less than their initial bet, but is presented in a way that makes it seem like a win. For example, a player might bet $10 and win $5, which is technically a loss, but the game might display flashing lights and celebratory sounds, giving the illusion of a win. This can be particularly deceptive because it allows players to continue gambling without realizing they are losing money, further fueling the cycle of addiction. Many online gambling platforms also employ features that encourage continuous play, such as auto-spin functions, which allow players to set the game to spin automatically without requiring any further input. This can be particularly dangerous because it allows players to gamble for extended periods without any breaks, increasing the likelihood that they will lose track of time and money. The lack of natural stopping points in online gambling can make it difficult for players to disengage, even when they want to, further contributing to the addictive nature of these platforms. The proliferation of online gambling platforms has been touted by the industry as a form of personal freedom, allowing adults to engage in a recreational activity in the privacy of their own homes. However, this narrative often overlooks the very real social and economic costs associated with gambling addiction, particularly among young people. The consequences of this addiction extend far beyond the individual, impacting families, communities, and society as a whole. One of the most significant costs is the financial burden placed on individuals, families, and public resources. Young people struggling with gambling addiction may accumulate substantial debts, leading to financial instability, bankruptcy, and even homelessness. These financial hardships can have ripple effects throughout families, straining relationships, depleting savings, and forcing family members to shoulder the burden of their loved one's addiction. In some cases, families may even be forced to sell their homes or make other significant financial sacrifices to cover gambling debts. Beyond the immediate financial impact, gambling addiction can also have long-term economic consequences. Young people struggling with addiction may drop out of school or lose their jobs, limiting their future earning potential and making it more challenging to achieve financial independence. This can create a vicious cycle of poverty and addiction, trapping individuals and families in a web of financial hardship and despair. The lost productivity and potential of these young lives represent a significant cost to society as a whole. Moreover, the easy availability of online gambling has been linked to an increase in crime rates. Desperate to fuel their addiction, young people may resort to theft, fraud, or other illegal activities to obtain money for gambling. This can have a devastating impact on communities, eroding trust and creating a climate of fear and insecurity. The social fabric of communities can be torn apart by the ripple effects of gambling addiction as individuals and families grapple with the consequences of this devastating disease. The rise of youth gambling addiction represents a significant public health crisis, threatening the well-being of an entire generation. The accessibility of online gambling platforms, coupled with aggressive marketing tactics and the normalization of gambling behavior, has created an environment where young people are particularly vulnerable to developing problematic gambling habits. This issue demands urgent attention from policymakers, healthcare professionals, educators, and parents alike. The adolescent brain is particularly susceptible to addiction due to its ongoing development. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making, impulse control, and risk assessment, is not fully developed until the mid-20s. This makes young people more likely to engage in risky behaviors, such as gambling, without fully understanding or considering the potential consequences. Moreover, the adolescent brain is highly sensitive to rewards, making young people particularly vulnerable to the addictive nature of gambling, where the possibility of winning triggers the release of dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. The consequences of gambling addiction can be particularly devastating for young people, impacting their mental health, education, relationships, and future prospects. Young people struggling with addiction may experience anxiety, depression, mood swings, social isolation, and suicidal thoughts. These mental health challenges can have long-lasting effects, interfering with their ability to succeed in school, maintain healthy relationships, and reach their full potential. The normalization of gambling in society, fueled by ubiquitous advertising, sports betting sponsorships, and the integration of gambling mechanics into video games, further exacerbates the challenges faced by young people. This normalization creates a culture where gambling is seen as a harmless and even desirable activity, making it more challenging for young people to develop healthy attitudes and behaviors around gambling. One of the most insidious aspects of gambling addiction is the illusion of control that it creates. Many young people, particularly those who excel in academics or other areas of their lives, believe they are immune to addiction and that their intelligence or skills will give them an edge in gambling. This belief is further reinforced by the design of many online gambling platforms, which often incorporate elements of skill and strategy, creating the illusion that players have a greater degree of control over the outcome of the game than they actually do. The reality is that gambling, particularly online gambling, is largely based on chance. While some games may involve elements of skill, the house always has a statistical advantage, meaning that over time the odds are always stacked against the player. However, the illusion of control can be so powerful that it prevents individuals from recognizing the true nature of their gambling behavior and seeking help when they need it. This illusion of control is often amplified by the availability of online resources that purport to teach users how to beat the system or gain an advantage in gambling. These resources, which often promote unrealistic strategies or systems, can be particularly harmful because they perpetuate the belief that gambling is a game of skill rather than chance, leading individuals down a dangerous path of financial ruin and addiction. The deceptive nature of control in gambling makes it crucial to educate young people about the realities of gambling and the psychological tactics employed by the industry. By understanding the manipulative techniques used to create the illusion of control, young people can be better equipped to make informed decisions about their gambling behavior and avoid falling prey to addiction. The stories of Alex, Mariah, and countless other young people ensnared by gambling addiction should serve as a stark wake-up call. The rise of youth gambling addiction is not just a personal tragedy. It is a societal crisis that demands urgent attention and a multi-pronged approach to break the cycle of addiction and protect future generations. Addressing this complex issue requires a collective effort from individuals, families, communities, policymakers, and the gambling industry itself. One crucial step is to increase public awareness about the risks associated with gambling, particularly among young people. Educational campaigns should target schools, community centers, and online platforms frequented by youth, providing accurate information about the addictive nature of gambling, the psychological tactics employed by the industry, and the potential consequences of excessive gambling. By dispelling the myths and misconceptions surrounding gambling, we can empower young people to make informed decisions about their relationship with this activity. Furthermore, it is essential to provide accessible and affordable treatment options for individuals struggling with gambling addiction. This includes increasing funding for research into the causes and treatment of gambling disorder, expanding access to mental health services, and supporting the development of specialized treatment programs tailored to the unique needs of young people. Breaking down the stigma associated with addiction is also crucial, encouraging individuals to seek help without shame or fear of judgment. Parents, educators, and healthcare providers play a vital role in early identification and intervention. By recognizing the warning signs of gambling addiction, such as changes in behavior, mood swings, financial problems, and withdrawal from family and friends, they can intervene early and connect young people with the support they need. Creating open and honest dialogues about gambling within families and communities can also help to destigmatize addiction and encourage help-seeking behavior. Addressing the root causes of youth gambling addiction requires a societal shift in how we view and regulate gambling. Governments and regulatory bodies have a responsibility to implement stricter regulations on the gambling industry, particularly online platforms, to protect vulnerable populations. This includes limiting the accessibility of gambling websites and apps to minors, restricting advertising that targets young people, and requiring gambling operators to implement responsible gambling measures such as age verification systems, spending limits, and self-exclusion tools. Holding the gambling industry accountable for its role in promoting responsible gambling practices is also essential. This includes requiring gambling companies to contribute to research and treatment programs for gambling addiction, promoting responsible gambling messages in their advertising, and working collaboratively with governments and health organizations to develop effective prevention and intervention strategies. The industry must move away from predatory practices that target vulnerable individuals and instead prioritize the well-being of its customers. Creating a society that prioritizes the well-being of its youth requires a collective effort. By working together, we can create a future where young people are empowered to make informed decisions about gambling, have access to the support they need to overcome addiction, and are protected from the harms associated with this growing epidemic. The time for action is now. Let us not allow another generation to fall victim to the hidden epidemic of youth gambling addiction.